Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of ChedTalks. I'm glad to be here tonight. We have an exciting show tonight. It's going to be off the hook. We have a lot of energy in the house. First of all, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what our subject is like. Our subject's tonight's about resilience. Resilience can be so many different things, but I don't want people to just consider resilience as mental toughness. It's a lot more than that. It's about working your way through your issues, your difficulties, your pain, whatever it is. You have to be able to take your time, go at your pace, and work your way through. Tonight's guest is phenomenal. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her, and then she's going to get into her story. And then, I'm going to encourage you, if you have any questions, feel free to bring them in. I'll be happy to address any of the questions. And if you have any questions for my guest, she'll be happy to address them as well. So our guest tonight is Shakkoi Stewart. Now, Shakkoi is a published author 2 times.
Yes.
Right? She's a poet, an artist, and just a fabulous energy, a ball of energy. And she's had to have some resilience to overcome some of the challenges that she's had. She's going to share a little bit with us tonight. And I really want you to welcome her. Join me in saying liking or sharing or whatever it is that you want to do. Reach out and ask a question, and perhaps we can all work through together. And maybe somebody else is watching tonight that would like to, that may be going through some things. And if you want to know how to really take on those battles and how to find your inner strength, then perhaps give us a call, log in, forward your questions, and we'll be happy to address them, okay? So without further ado, Shakkoi, tell me.
Thank you so much for having me here tonight, Ched. I'm really excited to just share and just speak real facts, because I feel like a lot of the times, especially with Facebook, Instagram, everything's supposed to look so perfect and so good. Right. It gets tiring. So I love moments where I'm able to really just unpack and be real.
Right. And I appreciate you coming tonight. So last year, particularly with COVID and with all the things happening, right? I've spoken to a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of people that are struggling. They've had whatever issues. I didn't want that to be about our show tonight to be about just that. Mm-hmm. But as an entrepreneur, I've been, let's just say I've seen a lot of people. I've spoken to so many different people that I have to coach them through about the struggles, about the difficulty from not being able to, well, I think the challenge really is your choices being taken away. Mm. But also it's about whatever difficult things that they went through in their past that seem to have come back to the surface. Mm. Being social beings who we are, I think people need a hug. People need those kind of things. Yes. That we're now afraid of. So tell me a little bit about your story. I don't know where you want to start, but right. Tell me how your life's been and share it with us.
Okay, so I'll give a bit of a snippet of last year, and then I will kind of start where I started. So last year, oh my goodness, 2020, it was almost a year ago to the date where I actually started my first program called Poetry Fitness, where I talk about just expressing ourselves, not just verbally, but physically as well. Because I find, especially in the Black community, that it's not promoted enough. For myself, I've been dancing for the last 5 years, and I never grew up seeing somebody looking like me that was a dancer. Always on stage, I'm seeing like small, like really fit. So I never would see myself on that stage. And the only time where I was able to think that, hey, maybe I could actually do this was when I saw another Black woman as a gym instructor. Right. So in the past year, I was really able to take my skills from dancing for the past 5 years and my writing and put it together through Poetry Fitness. I got virtual, and there were times where I was like, I don't think I can do this, or I don't think it's even worth setting up this program. Why should I reach out to people to create a space for them to share? But I've had a lot of people come out to me and say that they're so thankful for this, and the fact that we've been in quarantine for so long, there's really not a space to just decompress. So because I started that, I'm just so thankful that I started it back then, because now I've been able to get into the University of Toronto with the program for their exam jam.
Wow, that's
exciting. Right? Just like under a year getting that type of recognition. So I'm just thankful that it's actually making moves and building. but I definitely didn't start having this confidence or start thinking I could encourage people, anything like that. It was actually quite the opposite. I was very angry. So to go back to, this is where I always start my story, because this is when I hit rock bottom. I can say it. Like, my voice even just left as I said it, because it's like it was that real for me. So when I was 19, my mom passed away from cancer, and she was the sole provider, single mom, 4 kids. So it was just a very surreal experience, just in the sense that I was like, how could this happen to me?
Right.
Like, why wouldn't this happen to somebody who has 2 parents, who has lots of, like, I was just so confused and so hurt. But after 3 months of just being inside, quitting my job, I had no idea. I'm 19. I just finished my first post-secondary program, which it was a year. So I was like, okay, what to do now? But it wasn't until I call her my aunt now. She's my mom's best friend. She came in my house and she was just like, you know what? No, you have to get up. You have to remind yourself that your mom can see you. Like, if you continue to be like sad, you're going to show your mom that she never taught you anything, or like she didn't teach you the right thing. So when I thought about that, I was like, oh my gosh, I have a choice. I actually have a choice, and I can choose to do good things. I could choose to not be sad, but I had to actually try. I think that's what the difference is that people think that you're happy just because you're happy. No, you actually have to try to be happy. Like, it's a thing every day. Exactly.
Right.
So after she told me that, I started reading this book that reminded me that I have the power to control my mind. I never heard things like that growing up. In the school system, I'm always told, like, you got to fit in here, you got to do this.
Right.
And in school, I was good, but I was rebellious in a good way, if that makes sense. So, like, for example, in grade 12, I was like, like, I'm 17. I've worked so hard in my life, as we all think. And I traded all my classes from academic to applied.
Right.
And it's just because I'm like, grade 12, I want my year to be easier, etc. And so pretty much I lowered my standards so early. Mm-hmm. So to say now that I am somebody who's actually graduated from the University of Toronto, I never even saw that back then. And it's because I was just thinking so like, yes, exactly. So now I'm like, why would I want to go to university? Like, who cares? But yeah, so fast forward to 19, my mom passed away. And then I was able to, within like probably 5 months, I was able to buy a house with my sister, which was absolutely insane, because I'm going from not even knowing how to cook. My mom showed me how to cook one meal because she was that person that was always cooking. Like, when there's a party, like, call Sharon, Sharon, I could cook the curry goat, all of that, So it's like, why do I gotta cook? Like, she's better at cooking, so why should I learn? So it's another, I always like to remind people too that don't be like me. Learn the skills now. You never know. I had to learn off of YouTube, which was a whole different thing, but just to really know that I had the chance, but I didn't. That's why I started seeing life like life owes me something. Like, there's so much more than I can get out of this. Like, my life isn't done. There's like, my story is actually just starting, because I want it to be. Like, I'm not gonna go and get caught up or get pregnant young. I'm not gonna get into any of those stereotypes, because I feel like I have a reason now. And before, I didn't see it as a reason. I saw it as like something that bad happened to me and I couldn't get through it. Right. But then I looked at it different, like, no, this is going to be my reason why I'm pushing for more life, why I'm pushing to do these things. So the reason why I even went back to school was because my mom was very big on education. I was like, you know what? I've been working 3 jobs now. It's really not, I'm realizing that it's not the more that you make. You don't make more having a bunch of jobs. Right. It's really just like, I was working too hard. I had to learn how to work smart. Right. Exactly. So I was just like, okay, can I really do this? And I said, yes, I can do this. Why? Because I have to. I think one thing that people don't realize too with the situation that I've been in is that comes a point where you don't have a choice. It's literally like, people are like, oh, why are you like working to be happy every day? I don't have a choice, because I know that when I've seen my darkness. And I know I don't grow there. Yeah. So I fight to make sure that I'm out of it each day. And so, going back to university, I had to really go back to a university prep course and all these things, because when I was 17, I was like, I'm not going to go to university, all that. Literally, my English teacher pulled me aside the first day. He's like, Shakkoi, I don't think you should be in this class. Like, I honestly think you're wasting your time. I'm like, whatever. You don't know me. Like, you don't know my real life. I ended up getting a 99 in that class in high school. So it really just shows that don't shun yourself of your potential. Like, you may feel tired to push more and like to actually see how far can actually go. But when you do that, you'll surprise yourself beyond your greatest belief. Even with these books, I never planned for them to even be shared.
Yeah.
The reason at all, like it was literally like my own poetry that I'm like, okay, I'm so mad. I don't want to fight because I don't want to get suspended because I'm a good student, never been suspended. So I needed to put my anger somewhere. So a friend got me a notebook. He's like, just like write how you feel in there, do whatever with it. So I'm like, okay, like first thing I'm just gonna make sure I write my name because I don't want to lose this because I just feel like this could be making a lot of money one day. I didn't know, right? But I was just like channeling, plugging things out there. Yes, and it was when I was teaching kids a poetry workshop where I was like, you know what? I want to show these kids that I'm better than just this little notebook. Like I can make this notebook into a book, And to be honest, even when I self-published my first book, I didn't even know that it was actually self-published. Like I didn't know that that's what I did. Right. That's what the term. I was just like, no, I got to get this book out. I'm going to be graduating university next year, and I want to have something that I can push, I can share, and I feel like the best way to do that is to actually push my writing. And that's because I was slowly sharing it over the years. But I was like, okay, how am I going to explain myself and not be seen as an angry Black woman, but be truthful of how I was feeling?
So tell me a little bit about, so when your mom passed, okay, you said you have a sibling? You have
yes, lots of siblings.
Lots of siblings. So it was, where do you fall in terms of are you first, second, living with your mom?
Yes. Okay. So living with my mom had 4 kids and I was the second last.
Second last.
Yes.
Okay. And the others were still with you at the time in the home?
Yes. Like when my mom was there or after she passed?
After she passed.
After she passed, we kind of all like split up.
Right.
Yeah. Not too long after because my brother wasn't really living with us anyways, but it was kind of just like, we were all so young and like my mom she was the mayo, she was the glue, like she just brought everyone together. So it was just extremely hard to really connect at that time because I'm just saying this to say that I've learned that I don't blame them for how they've had to grieve.
Right.
I don't blame them.
Right. So through your grieving, where did you find the strength to kind of get through that? I know you said your mom's friend came to you and said, well, this is not how she wants you to be, but where did you find the strength and what was that process like? Did you take it? Did you just say, no, I'm just going to get up one day and just do it? Or did the pain, I know the pain just didn't suddenly go away. How did you work your way through step by step to find the strength to be where you are today?
I think it took slow acceptance, but also defiance. So like realizing that, okay, this is my situation, but I don't have to even live in my reality. My mind is so powerful that I can project a different reality and that reality will come. But I had to just slowly continue to believe how powerful my mind was. And I would start to glorify the little things like, oh my goodness, my fingers, they're all working. Like, this is so great. Like, I felt like I didn't have things to be happy about. So I had to find the littlest things and just make that the biggest part of my day. Because if that's all I had, I knew that I had to use it. Because again, just remembering that I knew how I was when I was in my dark place, I just didn't want to go back. I didn't want to go back. So I was just willing to do anything. So it's really just slowly accepting.
Right.
And I say that because it's almost going to be 10 years. And I can say that I realize that it's going to be for life, that I'm going to be crying when I talk about her. It's never going to be something that I'm over, but I'm learning to accept it. Like even with one of the latest poems that I wrote called Grief is Love. It's my way to really just give praise to my mom and just like remember that I can still connect with her. It's almost like I may not be able to hear her in the conversation, but it's just I can still talk about her.
Yeah.
Even if I'm crying about it, I can still do this. I can still keep her memory alive.
Right.
And so, even though it's painful, I know that she would be so happy. So that's what really keeps me like.
Yeah.
She had 4 kids. I don't have any kids. What's my excuse?
Yeah. So when you found the strength, you said you'd be happy about the little things. Was that a coach? Did someone coach you through that, or did you just had to search for something on your own? Did you go that journey on your own? Did you seek any help?
There was one time where we were assigned to a therapist. And this is my first experience with a therapist, and it was just like I just felt like, okay, like she was just so disconnected. I was like, okay, fine. Like, when do I need to leave so that you're gonna get paid enough? Like, literally, I was like, okay, let me just let's just tell me so I can leave and not, because it was just so disconnecting. So I didn't have someone there like a coach or anything. I would have loved to be able to have that at that time, but I really didn't. It was really just that one book, The 4 Agreements, where I just kept going back to that book, and it just reminded me of how powerful my mind was, because it started off with telling you that you make agreements every day that you don't even realize. And when I said that, I was like, what?
Yeah.
So I started thinking, oh my God, all these things I'm agreeing to, let me actually change what I'm agreeing to and just be more conscious of that. So it was like this slow build, the slowly even being able to lock my hair for the first time. And the reasons behind doing that too is just having to deal with my mom being in the hospital and like setting up her funeral arrangements and having to like find a wig for her after. It just made me feel like even as Black women, even after life, we're just like, we can't even be our natural state. It just really affected me to the point where I'm like, no, I do not feel confident in my hair, but guess what? We're going to rock these short little babies. We're going to do this. So it's like not even being there, but like faking it until fake it. Yeah.
Yeah. Some people, I think in this whole journey, we always have choices, and sometimes the choices are difficult ones. I often say you can either feed the beast or you can feed the angel, right? So there are 2 sides to us, and that's the darkness and the light. And whichever one you feed is the one that's going to grow.
Yes.
And the choice to last week I talked about on the show as well. I said there's fear is a reaction. We can be afraid when things happen, but once we make the choice to be courageous. So courage is a choice. You choose to fight. You choose to be resilient, and that's how you get through things. And for those that are out there that are suffering from something, or want to make a decision, want to make a choice on something, you don't have to go it alone. You have people like this young lady here who shared her journey, and sometimes it may not be as devastating as. She may look at you and say, well, she lost her mom. That's way worse than that. And I can't even handle small things. Well, it doesn't matter. A loss is a loss. Some people feel it a lot more than others. And it's about finding your way through that and navigating your path to success. So
exactly, because sometimes I think people don't realize too that a loss can be as simple as even a friendship. That's a form of grieving to an extent. So
Absolutely.
Just really learning that to embrace it to an extent where you're able to get past it and not try to ignore it.
Right. So what do you say to people who are currently out there suffering through something? And they may have, they're afraid to kind of take that step. They're afraid. Like, what do you say to people now when they ask you, geez, how the heck did you get through that? I mean, what do you say?
I have a tattoo that says the biggest fear is fear itself.
Right.
Because I was thinking about it, I'm like, it's not that I'm afraid to try to apply to university. It's like I'm afraid of being afraid. Right. So I think for what the advice that I would give is that ask yourself, are you afraid of trying out for something, or are you afraid of being afraid? And I think it's just when we start changing how we think about it, that's when it will seem like, okay, like, no, fear is just fear. But now when you separate it and the action is there, remove fear and just get straight to the action. And I think a lot of the times too, if you're scared about something, it's a good thing. You're excited. Imagine wanting to do something or going on stage and you're not feeling scared. Are you there?
Are you alive?
Are you there? Exactly. So
Yeah.
I think that fear is just like almost misplaced for like excitement or sadness, sometimes anger, but sometimes it's just really misplaced. If we could kind of shift it, we can get it to a way where it can actually work for us.
Right. Our next subject on the next show will be about fear, but we'll get a little bit into that later.
Yes.
On. But for now, it is great to see someone who's resilient, who's fought their way through, and can share that story. I'm going to ask my producer here to come in and give us a hand here. I think there are some questions possibly, and maybe a computer. So we would like them to address that in the back.
Yes, excellent. Yeah. Right, I was talking so much, I didn't even say much about my books, but...
Well, no, we still have time. We're going to get into that. So let's talk about the books and how they played a role in your life. Why don't you tell us the title of the books, and so we can have our viewers maybe either purchase or ask some questions about it.
Yes, thank you. So the first one is called The Poetic Transitions from a Hothead to a Conscious Queen. First of all, I never heard hothead in a positive way. And I felt that there were moments in my life where I was feeling like a hothead, but there was so much more to unpack behind it. But when you just think hothead, you're obviously thinking just negativity. So I was like, how can I release kind of like my older poems where I was kind of just learning about self-hate and like accepting Blackness, etc., to where I was now at like 26, where I'm like, okay, now I understand these things. So what I did was I created a word called the preflection, where I explained how I felt before the poem. Then there's the actual poem. Then there's a reflection. That way people are able to see how I felt before the poem. Because I would read some poem books sometimes, and honestly, I would get bored, just being honest. Because I'm like, whoa, I got short attention span. So, and I always think, I wonder what made the person want to write. So that's why I made sure to include that into my book. And with my second book titled The Conscious Queen Volume 1, featuring the After Dark edition, these are mostly my performance pieces. So they have a lot of depth in them because it's where I was like, I became a better writer at telling stories, etc. And I just wanted to show myself with different faces. I didn't want to always be the strong person. I can't always be the reliable person. I wanted to show, hey, sometimes it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be unsure of where you are as well. And I felt like when I was unsure, I would go to writing and kind of like almost create what I wanted kind of thing. So I feel like with this book, it shows the fluid Black woman and not just the strong Black woman, because that gets really tired.
Right. Okay, that's awesome. Now, when did you start writing?
I would say when I was 17. Okay. Yeah. And just randomly with no real goal, just to encourage people, you don't have to need to write a book to start writing. Start writing. You'll look back and might have a book. That's literally what happened in both circumstances.
That is great. Yeah. Okay. All right. So thank you so much for being on our show tonight.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you all there for tuning in, and we're gonna stay on for a few minutes to answer any of your questions. Feel free to ask your questions, and go out and get the book.
Yes.
Right. Feel free to write in, get the book, get a copy. Let's all as a community work together, share, and support each other.
Yes.
Okay.
Notability.ca.
Right. Now, in terms of resilience, we've talked about that a lot tonight. We have people out there that are very much suffering through things. If that is you, if you are going through something that now, certainly we're not doctors, we're not professionals in terms of walking through any kind of clinical conditions, but we're here to support, help. Feel free to dial in or just hit us up on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and we'll be happy to assist you and direct you in whatever resources that we need to be able to bring you to that point of success or resilience.
Yes.
Okay. Now, there's so many different types of resilience. It could be just physical, emotional, psychological, or community. Right. Those are all the different types of resilience that you may be able to face. So don't just put yourself in a box. Feel free to reach out Now, if you have any questions, let's go to the questions.
There's one quick thing I do want to say too, because
Sure.
I did mention that my first experience with therapy was bad. Within the past year, I have gone to therapy again with the right people, and it's been amazing. So I always recommend therapy for sure.
Yes.
But just make sure it's the right person.
Okay. All right. So that is all for tonight. So thank you all for joining us. Next week, join me again Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Feel free to like and share. We have many stories and quite frank Ched Talks. See you.